Lecture 9. The Evil of Relaxed Discipline in the Church. Whose fan is in his hand, and he will thoroughly purge his floor. Matthew 3, verse 12. Zion is called the perfection of beauty, because it was the holy hill, and holiness becometh the house of the Lord forever. He who dwells in it is perfectly holy, and requires in his people moral assimilation to himself. His command to them individually and as a body is, quote, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect," unquote. Quote, "Be ye holy, for I am holy," unquote. It is only, however, an evangelical and comparative perfection that can be reached in this life. The full measure of holiness, excellency in the highest degree, is reserved for the state of future glory. And as the sanctification of believers is imperfect, sin and corruption ever cleave to them here. Though a society were composed entirely of such persons, it would possess a similar character, as a body must correspond with the quality of its parts. Hence, in this respect, the church on earth, called visible on account of the external relation it holds to Christ, its head of vital influence and rule, is necessarily imperfect. But even when scripturally constituted, it is found to contain adventitious mixture, by which its impurity is increased. For it is the church invisible that is formed exclusively of true believers. The visible church, quote, "consists of all those through the world that profess the true religion with their children," unquote. That from the Westminster Confession of Faith, chapter 20, section 1, as well as chapter 25, section 3. Among these there are hypocrites, persons who counterfeit religion and conceal their real character, or, as ingenuously described, have not put off the old man, but put on the new upon it. This fact is vividly exhibited by the striking figure which the Baptist uses in these words, quote, "He will purge his floor," unquote. The Temple of Moriah, a magnificent type of the gospel church, was originally built upon a threshing floor, and by that object she is here represented. But according to the primitive custom of the East, in separating the grain from the ear, which is still practiced in some parts of Europe, a Jewish threshing floor presented wheat and chaff, corn and tares, good seed and bad, all in one confusing heap. Such mingled contents graphically portray the mixed character of the visible church. It contains not only believers who, like wheat, are substantial, and, as they require, will stand the winnowing, but also hypocrites, light, empty, useless professors, who cannot any more than the chaff bear that operation. The children of the religious professors are likewise included. They are literally born in Zion and relatively holy, quote, else were your children unclean, but now are they holy," unquote. According to this promise, which graciously connects professed believers and their offspring, the infants of such are entitled to baptism, and to be treated as they grow up and are capable of moral government, like the members of the Christian community, with respect to external privileges. But unless we adopt the Episcopalian heresy, unequivocally expressed in the offices of baptism and confirmation, that infants on being baptized with water are, quote, "regenerated," unquote, quote, "made members of Christ," unquote, and, quote, "the children of God," unquote, there is reason to suspect that comparatively few of them are in the enviable condition of infant Jeremiah or the privileged son of Zacharias and Elizabeth. Every human creature is more deeply imbued with the original stain of sin than wool that has been steeped in Tyrian purple is tingled with its indelible color, and all the water of Jordan cannot efface it. Besides, there are many advanced above childhood who regularly hear the gospel preached and, in a general sense, are within the church, though regarded for the time unqualified to enjoy her special privileges. And there are backsliders and scandalous persons who, when they are submissive, do not manifest obstinacy in sin, are merely suspended from these, without being, quote, "cast out," unquote. Some have gone so far as to maintain that even the excommunicated are still to be regarded as members, as the church is employing means conducive to their repentance. Thus it is evident that she were pure in respect of constitution or communion, yet from the imperfect sanctification and diversified character of her legitimate members, she must necessarily in this world retain corruption. But it is further stated in the Confession of Faith in chapter 25, sections 4 and 5, quote, "This Catholic Church hath been sometimes more and sometimes less visible, and particular churches which are members thereof are more or less pure, according as the doctrine of the gospel is taught and embraced, ordinances administered, and public worship performed more or less purely in them. The purest churches under heaven are subject both to mixture and error, and some have so degenerated as to become no churches of Christ, but synagogues of Satan." Unquote. This startling representation of the fearful degeneracy that may overtake particular churches has been fully verified by the Church of Rome. It cannot be supposed that Christ had no people during the protracted ages of darkness and despotism which preceded the Reformation. He had disciples, but they lay buried in the bosom of the great Romish apostasy, when the thick green scum of corruption that had mantled for centuries the stagnant lake of popery was rent and dashed aside at the Reformation. Some clear water appeared beneath. Divine truth then streamed forth with the freshness and luster of a new created world, emerging from the opacity of chaos. Almost from Syracuse to Copenhagen, Europe felt its reviving influence and confessed its enlightening and sanative power. Down till this period, or till that of the monstrous Council of Trent, her grand climacteric, a considerable time after, which council, quote, began by lying and ended by cursing, judged and condemned Protestants without a hearing, and by ecclesiastical law established unchangeably every part of the devoted anti-Christian system. The Church of Rome does not seem to have been wholly rejected by a merciful and long-suffering God. That church where the pontiff sits enthroned is termed, quote, the temple of God, unquote. Until the time mentioned, her administrations must be considered as in some measure efficient, and her baptisms and ordinations valid. Then, however, she lost the acknowledged essential characteristics of a true church, which are sound doctrine, a legitimate ministry, and sacraments dispensed in accordance with divine institution. In vain does she plead things which she never, in a requisite degree, possessed, or that are no marks of her scriptural integrity, such as unity, sanctity, antiquity, and consent with the ancient fathers, multitude or universality, and outward prosperity. To no purpose is it argued that distinguished and even eminently good men have since occasionally existed within her pale, and that the opinion which denies her to be a Church of Christ involves very serious difficulties. As a church, she has evidently ceased to be a part of his visible body, and is a mere putrid gangrene for which there is no cure but excision. In the estimation of men of God in different countries, best qualified to decide on, quote, high and awful mysteries, unquote, she has long since become the synagogue of Satan. There may be darkness and shadows over the book of the Apocalypse, which require a coming morning, but her features, character, and doom are there depicted, not in dim perspective, but bold relief, with a strength and a precision of coloring not to be mistaken. Quote, "And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication, and upon her forehead a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And the woman which thou sawest in that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth." Unquote. That from Revelation 17, verses 4 through 6, as well as verses 16 and 18. She exists by mere sufferance under the ban of divine wrath, quote, "until the words of God shall be fulfilled," unquote, and then she will visibly perish in his righteous displeasure. Ruin's burning plowshare will furrow her foundations. The mill of God grinds late, but grinds to dust. Pity it is that such members go to this modern house of Rimmon, and there bow down without even Naaman's excuse for doing so. Its motto should be that which is inscribed on the gate of Dante's hell, quote, "Whoso enters here leaves hope behind," unquote.